Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, David.
We made it. Bueno Pasqua. Hello, Dominic.
Yes, I was chatting with Dominic a little earlier.
I know. I said one
Apparently,
word.
apparently he has a parallelogram of a Ender 3 now. Unfortunately, it fell over in shipping.
Dominic. Did you let FedEx touch it?
No, it was in a shipping container
Oh no.
when he moved. So it was
Oh
upside down when
no.
it
I
got
see.
there.
So
So
is it toast? I wonder.
uh,
That's sad.
yeah. Hopefully if the aluminum extrusion's okay, then maybe he can just replace some bolts and
Yeah, salvage a little
re-square
bit.
it up. So
I've seen a lot of people. This is like a total side, whatever. But I see a lot of people when they move, like just disassemble them again and flat pack them. But I also don't do that. I throw it in the trunk and see what happens.
I guess it depends on how far you're moving, right? He kind of moved across the country, so
He moved a ways.
that was a bigger move than down the block, right?
Down the block,
Yeah.
around the corner, up on the street.
Exactly.
Got it. So we still don't have updated graphic, but you can thank the people.
These wonderful people on Patreon that support us, we'd like to thank all of you. If you want to join us in our chat that we've been chatting with Dominic this morning, that is Discord. And to join us in Discord, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/3dmakeit. We have a variety of tiers. We are going to be optimizing our tiers right away here. I was looking at it the other day, and it doesn't look like there's a Patreon way to integrate free people into Discord. But I'm sure between David and myself, we can figure out another way to do that. So, but yes, thanks everyone, Hilge at the top and everyone else for the support. And any other information if you want on us is 3dmakeit.ca. You can go there and find all the links to all the stuff and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Dominic says I'm thinking I can at least use a couple of the motors. See, so yeah, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that sucks that some of those boxes look fairly squished. I'm sorry that happened to you. Although there's always, like, even if you move like a couple blocks, let's face it, there's always something that gets destroyed. So your odds were just much higher.
Multiplied greatly by the distance.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure there's an algorithm for that.
Probably, right? Like an official formula that they talk about in a physics 2000 class somewhere.
Right. Yeah. It'll bore you to sleep.
So Greg was poking around and he discovered today that a new version of Clipper has released.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that it's been 2 years since we've had a real revision to Clipper, which is, I mean, that sounds good for stability, really, right? Because it means it's pretty mature, even though we're not even at .1.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Or one dot. I think, like, it does show maturity. It shows also just how far 3D printing in general has made it, right?
Well, and to be fair, it's not like the add-ons like Moonraker and a lot of the communication tools that they have kept moving ahead, like both mainsail and fluid, right? And everything. So So it's not like there hasn't been, you know, developments and whatnot with the Clipper environment. It's just Clipper itself really hasn't had a lot. They've added some new sensors to it. So there's the new eddy current sensor. They have some load cells that they now support. They support some new temperature sensors.
Now, it's funny because the eddy sensor, like some of the stuff was built in as plugins before, and then they just rolled it in. I feel like but like there is better like sweeping vibrations, right? Like it looks like they're adding to those mature features to make it better. So,
but the eddy had a Clipper piece, and I don't know. I think that's what they've incorporated in, so you could actually a CAN piece, so that you can flash it, so that it can now communicate properly over CAN.
That's one of the boards
for firmware itself. So
Good
there's
morning,
development there. And then they've added some new microcontrollers. The RP 2350 microcontrollers now supported. They've now fixed up the RP 2040 to run at 200 megahertz, up from the 125. So they've added a lot of new kind of things. It's not like for a major update, like I don't think there's anything groundbreaking, but it's just like really, you know, again, it speaks to how mature it is now.
Very mature. So mature. Which is interesting because it's a lot younger still even than Marlin, but
it's true.
The overarching Clipper though, like because its trajectory has been like, if you were to graph it on a line, the uptake of Clipper is almost like straight up, and it's still going, right? Whereas,
well, it's like a lot of technologies, right? Certain people that didn't get exposed to whatever, like if you look at Africa, for example, I'm going to just use that as an example. They didn't have phone lines to every rural community. They skipped over that and went right to cell.
You could use Alberta as like that.
Everyone has cell there, right?
Yeah. So you're right. Like technology rolled is different. Yeah.
Right. So and you know that's, I think, moving ahead, that's kind of the way it works. Everyone almost skips the previous technology and jumps to the next one, and the adoption is even that much faster. So yeah,
I like it. I like it a lot. So interesting things are happening as well with adoption of like Clipper firmwares. We've seen like slicers kind of mature. We're going to talk a little bit about slicers too in a little bit, but like Clipper support in like slicers like Orca, you know, are like, it's a pretty impressive thing to think about how integrated it is into our overall ecosystem now, because even if like even the printers that won't tell you what they're running, or they say it's closed source, are running Clipper, and then they just skin it, right?
Clipper it.
Yeah. So no, this is Creality OS. Oh, come on, it's fluid. Fine, it's fluid, right? Gotcha. So there's still that going around, but yeah, it's neat to see updates, and maybe we'll see another update before 2 years. Who knows?
Oh, I think we will. But you know, that's the other thing. Like, it does seem like the overall chipset market has slowed a bit. Like, yes, we've had the new RP stuff from Raspberry Pi, Raspberry and whatnot. So, but we haven't seen leaps and bounds on other stuff. So I think if there's like, you know, going to be like ESP32 is becoming even more and more kind of
Yeah.
within the system. So maybe we might see, you know, some additional migration in chips, but I haven't seen anything kind of on my radar yet of really groundbreaking stuff. I think we've kind of all the leaps and bounds have kind of leveled out, and now everyone's kind of in kind of equilibrium, so to speak.
Well, let's face it. We had the chip revolution, and that probably died out, like started to die out in about 2018, 2017, and now we're really in the learning evolution when it comes to the life cycle of technology, because now we're putting more effort and the industry into AI learning and how to fully use processors now that are really good and actually really hard to like make a next generation of. So
Right.
It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. And I, for one, welcome our Terminator overlords.
Well, the Clipper thing was the only thing I really saw standing out. There is a new version of Bamboo Studio, so if you're a Bamboo fan, download that.
Make sure that you update the firmware on your Bamboo printer before you download the, there's a specific firmware that has to be on to work with Bamboo Slicer. So make sure everything's updated.
Yeah, and then there was, I think you might have talked about it last week, or I'm not sure, but there was a new Prusa slicer that was released as well. So
I don't think I talked about it, but I think it was talked out.
Yeah,
we were. I don't think we were here last week, so it would have been a couple of weeks. But there's Prusa slicer development is still a thing. Everybody. It's interesting because they are actively developing their profiles now into Orca Slicer. So there's a lot of hubbub and Prusa's like, no, we're still keeping Prusa Slicer. Some just remix and call it new. And unlike when it comes to software and printers, it seems to be many skins, same bones. I mean, yeah, that's a phenomenon we see all the time.
Happened. Like, look at when the the first Mendel came out, and then everyone started making the design similar to that, and then all of a sudden the Ender 3, everyone was became rock solid, and then everyone copied that, and then and then Voron came out, and now everyone copied that, and then now it was refined even more, right? So yeah, it's same but different.
Same but different. And it's you see it now. Bamboo came out with a thing called the AMS and a K1C, and then everybody, and I mean everybody, now
have a multi-material system,
and I can list 4 of them which are complete junk. And then we can list one that's kind of okay, and we're going to talk about another one today in a second. But the thing is like, when it's the same block and probably building where all this innovation's coming from, right? The one guy from the research R&D department from Bamboo standing at the water cooler with the guy from like Creality, who knows, right? Like it's an interesting thing. But so I wanted to take a little time to talk about a thing, and the thing that I want to talk about is another one of the AMS and clones of a Bamboo printer, and that is the Creality printer. So and the CFS. So like you guys know, we have rotated through our ranks the K1C and the K1 Max printers. K1 Max
finally printed quite a bunch of stuff on Max. So
much, in fact, we had to replace the bed. We wrecked that bed. I think it was the stuff. I think because like the sticky stuff, I think it was that. Like it just overstuck too much. But at any rate, K1 Max is like the technology, the motion system It's the same as the K1C. K1C had the unicorn nozzle, right? You could upgrade the K1 Max to the unicorn nozzle if you have like an older vision, or the new ones in theory come with it. So the K1 Max series also looks like an X1C almost. It is a square box with a glass lid.
Slightly bigger.
Yes. And then obviously, like in the first K1, K1C, and K1 Max, the screen's on the bottom. K2 moved it up to the top. The K1C and K1 Max, called the K1 series, can be upgraded to the CFS, and that's what I did. I have the CFS behind me that way, hooked up to my K1C. And there's a couple of things they don't tell you, so I'm going to ramble for a second about the upgrade and like my general thoughts, and I want to show you some stuff as well in the slicer. But and then I also want to read the comments. I'm going to read the comments. I told you last night I was just gonna nice Blender. Blender is the Blender is a big software there, Dominic. It's one of those things. It's a lifelong learning. You'll love it. Well, seem like all the influencers seem to know what they actually need to look for. Everything is just best regardless of the functionality in the world. Yes, that's a very true statement. And that's why we try not to influence on our small little community here. We just give you information. So the K1C is what I put the CFS on. The CFS install comes with that Creality upgrade kit. I don't have any of the boxes left, but if you guys wanted to see what the box looks like, it's really boring. It's just a black box about 1.5 feet long. It says Creality CFS upgrade kit. Whoa.
And it's compatible, like they give you the upgrade for the Max or the C, right?
Yeah, so you get both in the box. Once you finish, though, you don't have enough parts to upgrade. Like if you upgraded a K1C, you could not upgrade a K1 Max.
Yeah,
Which makes sense.
Because you only get one extruder, right?
Yeah,
replacement.
So it does so the things it does add. So it does add like a shield for the back lead screw and the bottom lead motor. It has the poop remover hopper chute that goes beside to the right of the lead screw. And it's the exact, it's what you think it is. It's a little swinging apparatus, and I'll make a video on an install. We got a couple more that are going to be done. We'll make a video of installing it. And then it poops to the bottom of the machine. That's it. When it poops down.
So is the little flipper that cleans the poop off, is that incorporated into the shield that goes on the back of the lead screw, or is that
it goes on so it's all it is in that area, but it goes on top of it's an L-shaped bracket that goes on top of the lead screw. So it has an arm that just goes to the side and then hangs down.
So you just remove a screw and
something, 2 screws and then put it on, screw it back together
or something.
And that's a theme in the whole install. Put a longer screw in and just add this part on top.
The cover.
Yeah.
The reason the cover's there is that just so that none of the poop can gum up your lead screw.
Yep.
They don't care about the other ones.
No, because they're far enough away. Yeah, there is shields that go on the front one, but they're smaller. They're not full length shields. They're just little feet that basically attach to the bottom to keep it out of the bottom of the printer.
Oh, okay. So as it falls and bounces and whatnot, it's not going to get tangled up. That is their thoughts, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, and it works. I'm going to use that sentence a few times here. It works.
You struggled a little bit with it, though.
Well, there's things to learn about it, and in the install, there's a like the AMS has on your Bamboo Lab printers. If you have a Bamboo Lab, any Bamboo Lab, there's a filament buffer system, or where the filament meets before it goes into the hot end, and you get a 4-zone buffer right out of the box with Creality, so you don't have to buy like the hub like you would with Bamboo.
Right. So you can add another one.
So you can add up to 4 CFSs in a row on the Creality, so 16 colors. I'll talk about that in a second too. But so the buffer goes on really easy. You can put it a few places. I know I was talking with a good friend Raymond from Spool, and the installs he's doing it. He's using 2 screws to fix it to the back of the CFS, so that's fine. And it does work. The thing. So let me ask this question, and Greg, and you might have it right by you. Your AMS, where is it? Where is it sitting? And is it on top of the printer?
Yes.
All right, cool. That's impossible. And this is one thing they never actually tell you about the
Why is it impossible?
I'm glad you asked. Here, so I'm just gonna quickly, I guess I got some, I'm just gonna show what the buffer looks like here. Yeah. Just so I can talk about kind of how the buffer works here. Let's see. I don't want to show you an Amazon link, but hey, let's show some Amazon links. I'll put it in the show notes for you, Greg. Maybe if I can be clever enough to do such things. There, show notes link. So this is when we talk about the filament buffer. This is what we are talking about. Yes, it switched. It's a simple device and it's super easy to install. Your options to install the buffer are either with a sticky, so they give you a VHB 3M. Double-sided tape, yeah. And then they also give you 2 screw holes. And so the 2 screw holes, you can use the 2 screw holes with self-tapping screws into plastic surfaces, right? So the point of the buffer on this or in the Bamboo is to give a little bit of leadway to the filament so that as the extruder is pulling, it doesn't have to like pull the full tension, and I'll come back to that in a second, of the filament through AMS or through CFS to get to the printer. So this side here is the output with the one, or sorry, yeah. So like
single goes to the printer.
The printer, yeah. So single goes to printer. Let's see if there's a better picture. Yeah, sure. Single goes to printer. The 4 come from the CFS. There's one plug on it that plugs into the CFS, so it has sensors to know when it's going. Now, I ran into issues, and you can see you can buy them for about $40, so that's not bad. So let's first talk about issues, and then it'll come along to the same point of how you can't have the CFS on top. So physically speaking, if you put the lid on, you can put the CFS on top, but the CFS is a powerful beast, a very powerful beast. In fact, 1 second. Oh no, I won't be able to show it because it chewed up green. Oops. so the filament will not show up. Stop it. Stop the tracking. Thank you. So I'll just tell you. So the CFS is so powerful that at any cost, it wants to give you filament. It needs to give you filament. And the gears in the CFS grind the filament if it doesn't have a smooth pass.
If it stops on the way there,
right? And there's sensors that tell it's made it. So the CFS, the buffer, is one of those sensors. Okay, I made it to the buffer, but then the next sensor is the runout sensor, and as soon as it enters the hot end, even before it gets to the gear, on the new hot end there's a runout sensor, and it trips it. So then it knows, okay, I can stop pushing now because it's made all the way through. However, that sensor, if you put the lid back on the printer, does not trigger. The bend of the Bowden tube to the top of the extruder becomes too extreme, and
so
the
you need
pressure.
A taller lid.
Yes, and there are a couple really good models for a taller lid. You can do that, but if you look online and at the instructions, they tell you in the instructions to take the lid off, and they never tell you to put it back on. Nowhere does it say put the lid back on. And in fact, when you look at Creality's official videos on it in their wiki, you keep the lid off. Now, problematic for a couple reasons.
How do you print ABS?
Yes. Thank you. Right? So, like, keeping the lid off is great, but if you are printing carbon fiber, ABS, nylon, PA, the stuff that this printer can print, you run into the issue of, I gotta close it again. Pretty much. So, like, that's an easy overcome, and I feel like they should have just, instead of like, so like I found one on Prusa or printables, right? I'll print. It's fine. I'll fix it, and then I can put it up top. But I feel like that could have come in the kit.
Yeah, well, I mean,
$80 for a kit with 5 pieces of plastic that are mostly 3D printed.
Well, with my AMS, I had to print wedges, and Ray did me to those, just so that it lifts the lid enough, because the lid doesn't fit spools.
Right, so, and that's another thing too. Yeah.
Right. So so it was kind of rubbing and whatnot. So I just printed these. They go in. It just lifts it up just like about an inch at the front, and then that's enough clearance to do, and it works perfect.
It's not just spools. So like, don't think it's just spools.
No, but that's the ones that I use the most.
Yes,
that didn't fit. Right.
And like I printed, I had the wedge, it kept falling off when I lifted the lid, so then I just printed another thing and taped it there, and it's fine. The CFS deals with that a little differently. So there are on the top there's springed pads that taller spools can actually move inside to hold them at the right height.
And push it.
However, spools too big, so they depress it all the way. And not just spool, there's a few of them.
I hear there's a fix coming for that soon.
Yes, there is. Hopefully soon, very soon. And then the other reason, the CFS is cardboard spool compatible, they say. And when you get to the end of the roll on a spool of filament in a CFS or an AMS, that motor grabbing the filament can skip them. And that's what these springs inside of the CFS say don't do. So that's not a problem in the CFS. So like, iteration successful. One fix, right? Tick. But you've probably had that a bunch. The little rolls bounce around in there.
I haven't had them bounce around too much. I did have it where I'm at near the end of the roll, and when it gets to the end, if it was really well bent over in there, it won't pull out. And then, and then it's like pull.
Yeah, and you're like, stop it.
Now what's nice is it was smart enough to just stop the print. I could fix it and then continue on, and I never lost my print. So that was really nice. Like, it was smart enough that I didn't lose my print. I have a 2-color print because I didn't have the same color.
Yeah, so but it resumed
blue, but it resumed. Like, so this is the one that happened on. I ran out of blue.
Yeah.
And so
then it switched to red.
And it was right at the beginning of the print too. And so, yeah.
And I mean, so like, high level now that I have the CFS, it works the same as an AMS. The CFS is a better unit than the AMS. However,
how so?
Well, like, they iterated on the design to make some of the features better. So the filament feeders on the AMS, the cartridges are different. So the filament, like you just mentioned, can get stuck so bad inside the AMS with those. The filament actually becomes irretrievable when you got to take it apart, pull it out, right? The CFS uses PTFE tubes to feed into the feeders, so you have a little leeway, and it makes it a little bit easier to actually load the filament, and then if there is an issue, they have on the bottom of the CFS made it a quick disassemble, so you don't have to take out like stuff. Like if there's a problem with the AMS, you got to take it out of that plastic
you
box
have to
first, right?
disassemble the whole thing.
Did it a
Whereas
few times.
the AMS Pro, I guess it is, right?
Mm.
Or is it? Yeah,
two
two
AMS 2 Pro.
Yeah, the AMS2 Pro, they were smarter. You don't have to disassemble it to get to those.
Yeah.
The PTFE comes out and it's exposed on top, so you can easily access it to get a jam out now, which I think they probably had lots of feedback.
Right. This thing, I want to do it. So again, iterative designs on the AMS from Creality. There's no heater in the CFS. There's a humidity sensor and the current temperature that display on the front of the box, but that's passive. It's not actively heated.
But at least you know what's going on.
The PTFE tubing protects the feed mechanism from wear. So on a bamboo AMS, when the filament pulls in, it goes around and down the corner in the cartridge, so that can wear over time. Whereas this PTFE tube gives more slack and it can move around and it will last longer.
You can just put a short piece in, right?
In fact, they send you more. So you have the spare parts. On paper, if it's a choice between the CFS and the AMS, it's obvious. If it's the choice between the CFS and the AMS2 Pro, if you need some of those features on the Pro, like I do think that the Pro has so it has active air vent drying in the AMS Pro, where this one does not. Do we have a price on the Pro?
Also, if you have a Creality printer, you probably want the CFS.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. If you have Creality, you got to buy CFS. Now, did Creality do a good enough job on the CFS to be like, I want that? Yes, they did. But here's the thing. One, I like the CFS now that it's in. I think it's great. Two, when I was installing the CFS, my heart was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not into this. I'm crying now. Because the K1C in my brain flipped now from a printer that just worked to something that I had to work on, right? Not that that's bad.
Not out of the box just works. Now I had to tinker. Yeah.
Now, Creality has said that most of the parts that you install in the kit are going to maybe come to the printer. They said the extruder will change with the cutter and stuff. You'll get the new experience. So the new extruder.
Call it something new. It'll be the K2C.
I don't know.
Sounds like a dance.
They didn't change the K1 Max when they started adding the unicorn nozzle, so I'm not sure if they changed the name, but that's what they usually do.
Max Pro Ultra.
Yeah. Max Pro Ultra 4 Delta R. So I wanted to show a little bit of the slicer experience and show how that looks and works now that everything is installed. So I will say, before you get going with the Creality print slicers, if you have Creality AMS and stuff, or CFS I should say, sorry, Creality, it's a CFS. Update. Yeah. So the old software or old Creality print really doesn't play well with the CFS before version 6, but 6.1 works the best. Now I tried a few things as well when I got it, and I'll just talk about it while this is opening. Orca Slicer does support Creality print as a connection method, so I was like, will it interface?
So that's like the bamboo way of connecting as well to a bamboo.
Yes. It does not connect through Orca, which is sad. So you will have to use Creality print. When you so I'll just really quickly talk about this, and you'll see a failed print on it, which is just fine. And I'll talk about why I failed too. But
how does it fail? That's not possible.
It is. Trust me, it is. So a lot of the early failures were just the filament feeding problem, and I fixed that with a shorter PFE tube between the CFS and the K1C, and I took the lid off because I put the lid back on and ran the tube back the way it was before. So this is what your new firmware looks like, and if you're counting, it's almost the same. However, I wonder if I could send it back to Greg because he always has to see it live.
It's all good.
Okay. So
I got my phone right in front of me.
There he is. So this is what the web page or the firmware look like, and I'll talk about the web page in a second. But you can see it adds this filaments tab, so you can retract, feed. There's a guide and a helpy globe, but they don't say that. So I've got a blue off the CFS on the back, and then these are my colors loaded. All of this is entered manually when I loaded them on the control screen. There's a little edit button on the control screen that looks the exact same. I apologize.
Very bamboo-esque.
Very bamboo-esque.
You got to tell it what kind of color you're putting in if you don't have the censored filament.
Yep, 100%. And you can do it through the app. You can do it through the control screen. Both work fine.
CFS support the tags for sensing color?
Yeah. So there is RFID. So if you, 100%. By Creality, and it works. The Creality High also supports it on the K2 without the CFS. They put an RFID reader on the side of those machines. So that's also an option if you're just doing one, and it automatically does it. So this is what it looks like. The web page. So if you're counting, this is what it looks like. Remember this. There's going to be a test in a second. The web page of the new. So I should say after you finish installing all the pieces, there is a firmware you have to install. This firmware is not available on their website. You have to actually install it from the USB key they gave you. I have the latest revision. Some people have like a different number, but once you install this version, any of the further updates come over the air, which is fine. Okay. So if you had the wrong version, it'll update. And I'm sure that they will post it eventually on their website, but right now it just comes on the USB key.
So, question. Because you added in fluid as well to yours, when you did the firmware update, does that overwrite that?
So yes. So the version I had running before was gone. Oops, sorry, that's not what I wanted, the window there. So like that's gone, but you can also do the same thing again. You can root it and then install everything again.
Okay. So and your printer config and all that's the stock one, really.
Yes.
Unless you modified it.
Yeah, I did not. I was using it just to view, right? So
all you're doing is exposing the full fluid interface versus this. Creality. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And you can do it again. The root's still there. But so here's the test part. That's what the device tab looks like in Creality Slicer, and this is the web page, which used to look the same. There's no, so on the web page portion, they did not add the filament choices for one, so I can't set my color. Okay. The other thing that doesn't work is the bed mesh isn't remembered anymore. So you can see here, like the bed level is all messed up in all sorts of ways, and it's actually showing you, and I don't know why, but if this were the printer, this would be the guard, the big blue stacky thing. Like the guard on the back. Yeah, I have no idea. This isn't accurate in the slightest. It's not anything. Temperature still works. However, you're missing one of the readouts, and I actually had a discussion. I was like, hey, why am I missing this, right? We talked about it back and forth, but if I go back to the device tab, all of that stuff's here. Here's the chamber temperature, right? Because it uses that to turn the fan off and off. So you need that. But so you lose on the web page. You always did lose some features. However, they need to work on this because like even the file is broken. I can go to the history and see stuff, but I can't actually like print anything from here. So like
if you went to the fluid interface, is it working fine?
so I haven't done that yet because here's why. If it's
Oh.
this broken right now, I
You're
don't
gonna
want to
update it
risk
again?
yes, and I don't want to risk like updating what I have and then breaking it and then I have to do more work. So I was just waiting patiently.
David, patient?
Yeah, I
That's
know it's
amazing.
weird. This seems like one have to access the software. So yes, you are right. The software becomes necessary, Helge, or the app. The app works as well. So you can put on your tinfoil hat, whatever you want. The app works fine. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. That's my thoughts on the app. So you can see up here, top right, all the filaments come in. It shows you what you have loaded up here in the CFS automatically. Underneath, it gives you color mixing choices, and these are for doing models, which I'll show you in a second. And then you can do auto mapping. So if the colors are different in a model that's already painted, which I'll show you in a second, you can do
retask the
yeah, and it does it automatically.
Same as Bamboo.
Yeah, it does it. These aren't new. These are not new features. This is just where they're located in this version of Bamboo or Orca Slicer that they stole. I mean, appropriated. So let's bring in a model quick. This is the mean potatoes. I downloaded a model called Fabulous Flexi Kitty, and so here you'll get a good kick out of this. But here is the model going in. So it's a 3MF model I got from Things. So, and it was directly from Things. It didn't go to like, sometimes Things goes to an affiliate site or whatnot. So the first thing that pops up in my slicer when I opened it is it says, hey, this one's using a Bamboo Lab and it's using Bamboo Filament as filament profiles and the Bamboo Lab as the printer, the X1 Carbon. So you just click OK. That's not a big deal. So you can see when it loads.
Whenever I bring in a 3MF now to my Bamboo Labs, I get a warning. This was made with a different Bamboo Labs.
Yeah, and you're like, no, it's fine.
Even though I didn't make it in Bamboo Labs, I made it in like Fusion or something. And then I'm bringing it in. It still thinks it was made in Bamboo Labs. Like it's like
okay. It's that like determined. So you can see too that like Creality's version of this cuts like graphics off on the side. Like it's not as polished as it should be. So shame on you, Creality. Either use Orca Slicer just straight up and get your engineers to add profiles, or make a product that's actually, finished in the slicing area. Other than that, so you can see that the model's on the table, and then I've got, or on the bed, and then I've got the purge tower to the back right of the model out of the printing zone. Okay? Out of the printing zone. But we don't have a Bamboo Lab, and we definitely don't have these colors. So we brought them all in. We can go up to the device, change it to K1C, and now it's back. And if you notice that the purge tower is now in the back articulation of the model. So like if I print this, the purge tower and the model will become one, and the little cat will have a murder tail. Yes. But the
may want to relocate that slightly.
Yes. So first thing first, relocating is just click and drag. I thought in my brain, you know what? I bet you it's because when I brought this model into Creality Print that it detected the X1C, and changing the printer glitched the tower onto the model, right? Because of the different size and profiles. This is not the case. If you bring any model in and then just paint it manually, so like if you have a model in here, you can click this.
It throws it at the back.
It throws it at the back as soon as, and then you got to move it. So again, watch out. So this will ruin your day. Again, the purge tower, I know Bamboo puts it like way back, but like if you can put it in a location that's close to your model, it adds less stress on the print, and it does speed up the time slightly.
Travel time for sure. Yeah.
So wrong colors in our CFS. We got green, gray, once so 1C, that's black, and then blue. So like I don't really care at this point because purple is not a realistic color for a cat. I don't know if you know this, Greg, but like purple cats are very, very, very rare.
I hear blue cat there too.
So I'm just going to use the auto feature. So up here, I can click here, and then I clicked. It just kind of freezes the software for a second. It does this in Bamboo Studio and Orca as well as it's trying to auto map. Yeah. So it's doing its very best for you. And I'm going to be patient because I learned my lesson. So now it's mapped the colors I have to the colors that were there. And I don't think it uses too much logic in this process. I think it just takes like whatever number one was of the model and puts number one what I had in number one. So, but you can see now I have a black cat, and then I have the perch.
Interesting that I've never seen a green-nosed cat or a green pod cat.
I mean, they come out of Halloween. So it does a good job of what you have. And then, of course, if you don't like the mapping, you can come over into the colors. And let's say I wanted my cat
able to override it,
right?
Eh?
So like I can change this whole color scheme at once and override it. So now I have a gray cat with black eyes and blue, right? So you can do it that way. The other way you can do this as well, and this is hit and miss in some respects. If you click the model, the paint tab opens up at the top, and now you can use painting tools with different like fill or not fill. And I could pick a color, and let's say I wanted his tail gray. Now I can just really quickly run through and click all the tail pieces gray. Word to the wise, always rotate the model around, look at the colors, because like right now, one, this model's broken, so I'd have to fix it. But two, you can see like it's going to try to print gray here. And if you have like green on that layer predominantly, it will add a ton of time just to print gray. So like make sure all the layers you expect to be of a color are of that color. Yeah. So like they make it easy. You can use like just paint on tools too. So like if you wanted to like draw a patch on his back or something like that, you can do that. That's a triangle, so it follows the faces better. It can do a height as well. So if you wanted to change, but there's an easier way to do height. We all know the easy way to do height on a model is you slice it and then you go into the preview and change it, right?
Change the color at that layer. Yeah.
Yep. And all of the colors in the AMS are available for changes that way. So like, yeah, as soon as you move it, you can click it. Is it right click? Yeah. Add custom G code, change filament. Why is my change filament not available? Perhaps this is a glitch in Creality Slicer that we have found now. It worked the other day, but it's not there now. Anyway. Yeah. No, I wasn't. I swear. So Orca can slice most of this. I'm not sure how it deals though with the AMS features, right? Like technically the color change codes are a little different. They're custom. So Orca can do it, but it can't. The other thing I tried as well.
I'm sure it won't take long for someone to write a module of some sort to integrate that.
Probably. It's new. Oh man, there's comment. Okay, good. So like it's pretty simple and straightforward to use the slicer. If you do have a color that's wrong in your AMS, you can change it here as well. So like if you've made a switch, you come back here and now the green is actually like purple. You can come in and change it there.
I gotta say the one feature I like about having an AMS, I'm sure the CMS is the same way, is you can have it set up so that when the one filament runs out, it uses the next spool or whenever one you designated as the backup spool to continue. So you could put like all black in there if you're doing some major, I don't know, a Darth Vader helmet, for example.
I don't know, whoever's done one of those.
and then you don't have to worry about switching filament, as long as you don't get one of those hang-ups.
Right. And the CFS does that as well. Yeah. One thing that I wish they would add is a slicer feature, and it's actually not that hard. I could write the script to do it myself, actually. I'm just lazy. But I wish that if you had a CFS, there was an option called random. And it would just
randomly.
Yeah. And it didn't worry about, like, it didn't do purges or anything like that. It just switched filaments.
There was a device that did that. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And it made me sad when they stopped supporting it.
The Mosaic did that.
No. What is it? Palette. Yeah. Palette.
The palette.
The palette, too. So palette. That's kind of like a crash course, if you will, or a how-to too in the Sizer. So if you're new to the CFS, I mean, that'll get you going. I have some other friends that have one. They've been using it a lot, so
I'm sure Orca is going to get a lot of that, because I mean, how else would you use like the turtle or any of those other multicolor ones? Like
100%.
They integrate into Clipper, but you also need to slice for them. So I'm sure that that's one of the logics that they're going to be building into all of these. So it'll get better and better.
And like when it comes to it, if you know the G coding and stuff, you could add your own plugin logic as well. I don't know the codes yet. I could find out though, because every layer switch is written inside your G code file that you send to the printer, right? So it's not like it's a mystery. We can find it fairly easily.
It's not rocket science. It's 3D printing science.
Thank goodness. So that's kind of like a walk through the slicer, a little bit of my thoughts. I'm going to sum up the CFS thoughts as such. Okay. If you have a K1C, it is definitely easy to install the CFS. The parts go on fairly quickly. The last one I did, it took us 45 minutes, and then we were printing. So like, it's not hard. It's methodical. Except for the fiddly little wires. Let me tell you, the fiddly little wire people need to find a special place, because, but other than that, it's great. And so if you have a Creality printer that you want to add multicolor to, that's in the K series, or no, just the K series. So if you have a K series Creality printer, do it if you want multicolor. It's great. It costs a little less than an A5 a Bamboo Lab A1 with the AMS, that combo. So like, it's still on the cost effective side to add multicolor, and you will enjoy it. And honestly, I enjoy my AMS best, not for the multicolor in a print, but just having 4 filaments available.
Right. And then you can just choose. I think that's one of the nicest things is I have like a couple ABS in there and a couple whatever. So if I'm going to, do a prototype, I'm going to just use the PLA. And then once I've, scaled my design correctly, like this was like a old handle that broke for a pot lid.
Yeah.
And I scaled it wrong.
Oops.
So it was really easy to just
to switch it out, right?
And switch it out really easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's the strength of a CFS as well. So like, from that standpoint, it's great. And do I think it's a good product? Yeah, I do. I think it's a great addition. I'm a little so I think my biggest disappointments are you kind of got to not listen to them with the length, the PTFE tube from the CFS to the buffer.
Shorter.
Yeah. And like, the appropriate size is almost exactly right with a little droop. That's how I will describe it.
So the one that they give you, is it too long?
Yes. It's long enough so that if you set the CFS where they tell you to, which is right beside the printer, it bows a couple times going through, so it puts too much pressure.
You want the smoothest path possible.
Yeah. This is old stuff we used to talk about all the time. Filament path. right? And here we are. So, so yes, CFS worth it. You have to use Creality Slicer for a bit. Orca Slicer will probably do it. I just have to figure it out in the end. But yes, if you have a Creality printer, pursue this. If you don't pursue it. But a
I'm sure
P1P,
someone will figure out how to make it work. They'll have the CFS plugged into a Pi because the other end is a USB cable, right?
yeah, so you have a USB cable and that plugs
you
into
plug a
one slot,
USB
and then
Pi, and then someone would just have to figure out the code.
Well, the thing, yes, but I don't know if you've heard much about the Anycubic competitor in this space. The printer is terrible, but the box is great. Like the color changing box, and that one actually is Clipper. It's called the Ace Pro and is Clipper compliant. So as long as you're using like a Clipper, you can use it.
And that
Creality or Qt. So here's the thing, Dominic. I don't know if you were with us. You've been here forever. When we did the SX4 upgrades from those bad SSRs, but Qt Tech actually did that in the printers that you're looking at, and they have fixed it. So like the new one should have the fixed version. But I guess the real question is which Qt, and I think I know which one you want. You want the Plus Max, or the 4 Plus or whatever it is, the bigger bed. You can't get that size in the price in Creality. Yeah. So if that size is important to you and that's all you're after, then Qt. If you want something that's super reliable,
so is the Qt bigger than the K1 Max then?
The Qt is the one that is, I think it's like, it almost matches the K2 in size. I don't want to say it out loud until I look at this very important thing I'm clicking. One sec. I think it's the Plus. They were all on sale. So they're 305 cube roughly. The height's 280. Yeah, so 305.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like the Creality Max is a cube, so you get more build volume. But this one does come, I do believe, with a heated chamber, the Qt. So if printing
AS and stuff, it's nice to have.
Yeah, like nylons and that. So if you print a lot of that, for sure. If you just want a PLA slinger, I don't need the active. The Max is probably, or even going into the P1P or and then that's the other question. Because the K2 Max is double the cost of the Qt Tech printer. K2 Max is double that. Easy, double 1,000. So it's like $2,000. So I don't think you're going to be getting into multi-filament systems unless you go with a P1P. Like a bamboo lab.
Depending on what you're trying to print, I mean, a K1C with the CMS kit,
CFS,
CFS kit would be probably a solid printer.
Yeah.
So,
but if I were to pick between those two brands right now, I think Creality has pulled ahead a bit, other than the heated chamber.
I'm just not familiar with the brand as much. I haven't tried them. So
there was a while where a lot of people compared them to Bamboo Labs process, like development wise. Their box is called the Qt box, but good luck finding it. I don't know if it's out yet or if they've stopped development. It kind of went
and good luck getting good prices on any of these printers with the current tariff war. So
yeah, that's not my problem. I get good price still.
Canada isn't in the tariff war with China,
so the real answer comes down to your utility. Are you printing PLA? Then don't worry about an active heated chamber because you'll never need it.
No,
Even ABS, you don't need an active heated chamber.
don't need it. I fired it up the other day just because I wanted to print quicker, so it heated up the chamber faster. So that's the only reason I fired mine up.
It's a nice to have if you don't want to like to heat the bed, right?
And you know, the only bug I have is when it shuts off and finishes the print, it doesn't turn off the heated chamber fan.
Yes, you have to manually
go in and do it, because I don't know, there must be a bug or something, but it's done that since day one. No matter all the firmwares, it always does it. And so like I come down, what's that noise? And it's like the fan is on.
So I hope that helps with the question of Creality or Qt. Pick on your utility. If you don't need the heated chamber, I think that the Creality Max is a printer that could outperform the Qt Plus 4. Also, if you don't have a partner to help you lift, the Max is definitely the way you want to go, because the Qt printer is like 68 kilograms. It comes with handles on the top.
You thought your ender being a parallelogram was a problem. Just wait until you
The good news though is if you live high up and somebody's trying to say break in through your balcony, you could just like push this on them. Yeah, it's like a piano. So yeah, I think pick on your utility is the real answer there. ABS and PLA print fine in a K1 Max, and it used to be the K1 Max was like I think $7.99 US, but I know that's not the case anymore, so you'd have to check that out. The other thing to do is if there's a Micro Center by you, go there and look, because they still might have some of the stuff at the pre-costs and it might be cheaper for you. So
yeah.
Well, folks,
buy up all the local stock before it's gone.
Get it before it leaves. So that's our Easter Day stream. I hope you enjoyed the kind of walk through the CFS. I'll have some more thoughts probably on it in a couple weeks once I've printed more, but that's kind of the beginning. So thank you for coming. We'll see you again. Have a good one, guys.